We've all been in a similar situation, trying to learn how to trade, go and watch a video over on YouTube, only to see that person, that creator, doing extremely well using that method, but when you try to use it, there is way too much competition. This ends up happening because it ends up being something very specific, a specific parameter for a sniping filter or a bidding filter, and now that has been shared to hundreds, potentially thousands of people, it's now just way too difficult to go through. That's why in today's video, I'm sharing 5 trade methods that you can use, and chances are it's never going to have too much competition because it is constantly expanding. But before we do get into the video, if you're looking for some cheap, fast and reliable FC24 coins, then there is no better place than U4GM. There is a link in the description down below, and if you use code Fanatic, you'll also be able to get yourself a 5% discount. Thank you U4GM for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back into it. With each of these trading methods, they're pretty basic. You do not need to have any skill to get into them, but there's slight variations. I'm going to be showing players that I've used in the past, but understand that don't go and use these players, because by showing them with part of this video, it's likely that they're going to be slightly more complicated. In fact, to try and avoid this as much as possible, I'm going to show you the method, but it being in action for players that I've used a few weeks or even a few months from now, because I know that those players don't work. The goal here is to take what I show you and find your own players so that no one can copy you. You're in a market completely by yourself. So firstly, we have bulk bidding. Bulk bidding, a very simple trading method. Some people call it mass bidding. I still call it bulk bidding. But ultimately, it is the same thing. With this, you're not going to be making a crazy amount of profit on each card, but because you're able to get 10, 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 players all selling at the exact same time, all giving you 100, 200, 300 coins profit, you're then able to make thousands of coins once they all sell. The hardest thing is finding a player, in which I go for it in 2 different ways. You could go to a site such as Footbin, select the quality to be rare gold, and then try to find players that fit your price range. Normally, I look for players anywhere between 800 going all the way up to 1000, and then I'm looking to bid on them for 600 up to 800. Another option is for you to head over to the transfer market, select the quality to be rare gold, and then search those prices yet again on a bid. 800 to 1000. Going through, if you're able to go and see someone with a bid on at that price range, you know that they're most likely going to be able to sell, in which you'll go back to the transfer market, search that player's name in manually, and try to find their lowest buy now. It's also the same as if you're going through this on Footbin, you're going to search that player by name, find their lowest buy now. You may need to do this several times until you find a good player. This is trial and error. You'll also need to go through trial and error whilst bidding, because as you go through, you might be able to bid on 50, but someone else might already be looking at that player and they're willing to take smaller amounts of profit. In which if this happens, it's then back to the drawing board for you to go and find another player. But once you find them, you've found them. You don't need to do anything else. You just need to milk it as much as possible. The second trading method is sniping. Very similar to what we just mentioned, so you can take the exact same idea to find players, except now you're going to change it to be a buy now rather than a bid. Now with this, you're looking at smaller end players. You may want to increase that price range slightly to be 1000 coins, 2000 coins plus. This is if you're just starting. The good thing with this is that you can increase this until you're looking at players at 5k, 10k, 20k, maybe even more. They won't be popping up as often, but you will be able to make a lot more coins in profit. Now, one of the best things that you can do with a sniping filter is not look at an individual player. Instead, it's looking at a group of players. That way, you're not just waiting for one player to be listed, but you're waiting for several. You also want to make sure that it's not bottom of market. For example, if all of a sudden rare gold players within the Premier League did increase due to an SBC and their lowest buy nows were at 1000 and you try to get them at 800, there's going to be so much competition for that just because there's so many other people looking to do the exact same thing as there's an increase in demand. This could be 2 different players that have the same nationality within the exact same league, within a fairly similar position, going for a similar price. It sounds like there's a lot for you to sync up, but with EA constantly adding more and more players to Ultimate Team, there's a lot of crossover. It's not long until you will be able to go and find players that do sync up like that, and you have the opportunity. But one of the better ways, and this brings us on to tip number 3, is if you change a player very, very slightly. This used to be great this time last year, in fact every previous Ultimate Team, because you would be able to change players' positions, but this year you can't. There's no position modifiers. However, there are still chemistry styles. So if we were to go back to that previous point that we mentioned about Premier League players all increasing to 1,000 coins because suddenly they're in demand for SBCs. If you try to buy one of these using a sniping filter at 800 coins, it's not gonna go well. However, if you were to go and increase this so that there is a chemistry style on that player, let's say it's going to be a hunter, which takes them up to their lowest by now being 1,500, it becomes better as a sniping filter because you're no longer trying to get them at 800 to sell at 1,000. You're now looking at 1,200, 1,300 to sell them at 1,500. That means anyone else that was looking at the bottom of the market deals will not be looking for the same type of player that you're looking for. And you're still able to make a relatively similar amount of profit after the 5% EA tax. It's just that now you're having to spend a bit more on every single player. So you can then search Premier League players, rare gold, hunter for 1,500, completely remove all of those looking at the bottom end of the market, limit your competition, and still be able to make a good amount of profit. This is with a chemistry style method, and you can use it within a sniping filter like what I've just said, or you could go and use it as a bidding filter. This yet again could tie into a bulk bidding method where you're now looking at loads of players, maybe every single striker within the Premier League with the hunter chem style. You found the lowest buy now for the typical market, and now you're just going across and bidding on what's there. You can outbid your competition, going at a higher price, and everyone's going to be looking at you thinking you're insane. That particular type of player will sell for 1,000 and you're bidding at 1,200. You could have just got a buy now, but that's because they're overlooking the fact that it has a hunter chem style. Another way in which you can use this method is just to use your judgment. If you search a particular type of player within a particular type of position and with a particular type of chemistry style, and they're all listed at 1,500, but there's one listed at 1,300, you could very easily buy that one at 1,300, list it slightly higher, and it's likely you will be able to sell. That's the cool thing with a method like this, is that with chemistry styles, you can change all previous methods to be in a completely different market, as well as have its very own type of trading method. There's quite a few bonus ones that we've gone through with just this. Method number 4 is the 1-2-3 method. Not so much of a method itself, but actually a bidding parameter. This is where you'll set your price to be 10,000 minimum bid, 20,000 maximum bid, and 30,000 coins minimum buy now. This will separate all the bad deals to the potentially good deals, and I typically like to go and focus on those special cards. You do want to have your phone, tablet, maybe a PC, laptop, whatever it may be beside you so that you can go onto Footbin. That way when you come across a player with a bid on, you can quickly type their name within Footbin, find their relatively lowest buy now. It's not always 100% exact, but it does give you a very close idea. You will then subtract 5% away from that, and then also take whatever coins that you're looking to go and make profit on, and you'll set that as your maximum bid. You will not go beyond that, and then you bid on players that fit your requirements. The cool thing with the 1-2-3 method is that this is the mid tier at 10k, 20k, 30k. You can go below this at 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, which is going to find some cheaper players that you can use. But with that, I still recommend you either use bulk bidding or sniping for that type of parameter, just because you're able to make a lot more coins with those methods, but this is still an option. And then with this, you can also go higher with 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 coins, where you're looking at icons or high rated rare gold players or just special cards in general. And the fifth and final method for this video is old team of the week method. I've shared on this channel many times that you should be investing into team of the weeks every single week because they do gradually increase. And yet again, this year, despite people saying that they won't, they have. You can go back to the very first team of the week and they're worth 20, 30, 40, 50,000 coins. Some players are even extinct despite being mediocre 80 rated team of the week players, which are not in desirable leagues, positions, and just not really used for that much, except for SBCs. People use them for SBCs and these players have become extremely rare. Well, if you missed out on that opportunity to invest, you can still invest in team of the weeks which are being released now. But if you want to go back and profit from the players we mentioned before, you can. All you need to do is find a database, yet again, FootWiz, FootBin, whatever you want to use, find team of the week 1, go all the way back. Then you're going to search each and every single player. You're going to find that team of the week card and you're going to compare the price. Because we're looking at players that were released as part of the very first week, as I said, some of these are extinct. Most you'll be able to go and find a couple pages, meaning that it's very easy for you to go through, see what the lowest buy now is, and then see what the second lowest buy now is. If you were to go and find a player who, for example, was listed at 30,000 coins, but the next cheapest was 35,000 coins, you could buy that one at 30,000, list it at 34,500 so that yours is still the cheapest, and once it does sell, which it will because yours is the cheapest, you're able to still make profit. And that's what we're doing here. You're going to go through each and every single player. Not every player will have a deal. You may be able to find 1 or 2 per team that you check, but then you can go through team of the week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 until they get extremely common, where you need to go through multiple pages for you to find the lowest buy now, in which that marks a time where you can go all the way back to the beginning. And there you go. There are 5 different trading methods, with there also being bonuses for nearly every single one that we've mentioned. So there's quite a few methods and variations that you can use. The idea behind all of this is that you go and search the players that you can find so that it will work for you. With the likes of old team of the week or even 1, 2, 3 method, it's not specific players you're looking at, but instead being in the right place at the right time, or even just continuously searching the full market with the likes of the 1, 2, 3 method. If you enjoyed this video, then I highly recommend clicking the next video on the screen. I'm not sure what that is, but YouTube has specifically selected it just for you. So I hope you enjoy.